In the dead of night, beneath the vast and silent skies of the Sahara, a major security incident unfolded, one that is now echoing far beyond Niger's borders. From the streets of Niamey to diplomatic corridors across Europe and West Africa, what began as darkness and stillness would soon give way to gunfire, tension, and a chain of events that may redefine power and alliances across the Sahel. On the night of January 28, 2026, the calm of Niger's capital was abruptly shattered when armed assailants launched a coordinated attack near the Diori Hamani International Airport, one of the most critical infrastructures in the country. This airport is more than a transport hub. It is a strategic lifeline, a symbol of sovereignty, and a sensitive security zone, closely linked to Niger's national defense. Any incident in this area immediately carries national and international implications. At first glance, the situation appeared similar to other security incidents that have occurred in the region over the years. But as hours passed and more details began to surface, it became clear that this operation carried a different weight. According to official statements from Nigerian authorities, security forces responded rapidly, repelled the attackers, and secured the area before launching pursuit operations into the surrounding desert. What followed changed the narrative entirely. During these follow-up operations, Nigerian forces reportedly intercepted a convoy attempting to flee deep into the Sahara. Several suspects were detained. Among those held in custody, the military government claims were foreign nationals, including individuals alleged to be French citizens. This single claim elevated the incident from a domestic security matter into a full-scale geopolitical flashpoint. Nigerian authorities have described the suspects as mercenaries, a term that carries deep historical and political significance across Africa. It evokes memories of proxy wars, covert operations, and decades of external interference that shaped the continent's modern history. While investigations are still ongoing and no independent confirmation has yet been presented, the announcement alone was enough to send shockwaves across West Africa and beyond. Shortly after the incident, Niger's transitional leader, General Abdurrahmane Tiani, made a highly symbolic visit to Airbase 101, located adjacent to the targeted airport. The base has long been considered one of the most sensitive military installations in the country. For years, it served as a central hub for regional security operations. Tiani's appearance there was widely broadcast and closely analyzed. Standing at the site linked to the night's events, General Tiani delivered a strongly worded message. He accused external forces of attempting to destabilize Niger and later publicly named several regional and international leaders, whom he claimed were politically connected to hostile actions against his government. These allegations were swiftly denied by the governments concerned, who described them as unfounded and politically motivated. Despite the denials, the incident has undeniably pushed already strained relations to a new and dangerous level. Since the military takeover in Niamey, Niger's ties with several Western and regional partners have steadily deteriorated. Sanctions, diplomatic pressure, and economic restrictions have defined the months leading up to this moment. The airport attack and subsequent arrests have now intensified that confrontation. Eyewitness accounts cited by local sources described heavy gunfire and explosions near the airport and the nearby military base during the night. Nigerian security forces say they acted decisively, sealing off the area and preventing further damage. According to official reports, it was during the desert pursuit that the suspects were intercepted and detained. Images later released by state media showed armed forces detaining several individuals in remote desert terrain under intense lighting, surrounded by military vehicles. Authorities state that investigations are ongoing to establish identities, affiliations, and intentions. No final legal conclusions have yet been announced. The reported presence of foreign nationals among the detainees has added an explosive dimension to the situation. Nigerian officials argue that it supports their long-standing claims of external interference in the country's internal affairs. Foreign governments, meanwhile, insist there has been no involvement in any armed action against Nigeria and caution against premature conclusions. This standoff is unfolding amid a profound geopolitical shift in the Sahel. Niger, alongside Mali and Burkina Faso, has formed the Alliance of Sahel States, a bloc centered on sovereignty, mutual defense, and a deliberate break from traditional security dependence on Western powers. Within this alliance, leaders have repeatedly emphasized that a threat to one member is a threat to all. Since the airport incident, reports suggest that security coordination and intelligence sharing among these three countries have intensified. What was once a political statement is increasingly becoming an operational reality, signaling a new balance of power in the region. At the same time, Niger has expanded cooperation with new international partners in areas such as surveillance, intelligence, and defense technology. Officials suggest that these evolving capabilities may have played a role in detecting and intercepting hostile movements in the desert, though independent verification remains limited. Beyond security and diplomacy, the crisis carries serious economic implications. Regional trade routes, energy exports, and cross-border cooperation are already under strain. Prolonged confrontation risks, deepening divisions within West Africa, and weakening institutions that are already struggling to maintain cohesion. Inside Niger, public reaction has been intense. State media has emphasized themes of resilience, sovereignty. Demonstrations in support of the military authorities have been reported in Niamey, reflecting a surge of nationalist sentiment. Critics, however, warn that prolonged isolation and escalating rhetoric could increase economic hardship for ordinary citizens. Yet behind official statements and public messaging, deeper questions remain unanswered. How did an armed group manage to approach such a sensitive zone under cover of darkness? Was the operation detected in advance, or did security forces respond purely in real time? These questions continue to fuel speculation. Security analysts note that the choice of location was highly strategic. Control over airport infrastructure and adjacent military facilities carries symbolic and operational significance. Even a brief disruption sends a powerful message across the region. As pursuit operations moved deeper into the Sahara, the desert itself became a decisive factor. Once a vast blind spot, it has increasingly become a monitored space through expanded patrols, aerial surveillance, and intelligence coordination. Authorities suggest this shift has significantly reduced the ability of armed groups to disappear into the sands. When the intercepted convoy reportedly came to a halt, it marked more than a tactical success. For the Nigerian military, it represented a symbolic assertion of control, both over territory and narrative. Reactions to the released images were immediate and divided. Supporters of the government viewed them as proof of competence and sovereignty. Critics urged restraint, emphasizing that images alone do not establish guilt. International observers called for transparency and due process, particularly given the international implications. For many Nigerians, however, the psychological impact was profound. The arrests reinforced a growing belief that their country is confronting not just internal insecurity, but coordinated external pressure. This perception has played a central role in shaping public opinion since the military takeover. General Tiani has repeatedly argued that instability in the Sahel is rooted in decades of failed external strategies. In this framing, the airport incident is not an isolated episode, but part of a broader historical pattern. Regionally, neighboring states are watching closely. Any escalation could ripple across borders, already strained by insecurity, migration pressures, and economic fragility. Traditional regional mechanisms appear increasingly sidelined as rhetoric hardens and trust erodes. Internationally, foreign governments face difficult choices. Public denials must be balanced against domestic pressure to protect citizens abroad. Diplomatic engagement must be weighed against the risk of reinforcing narratives they reject. Every move and every silence is now under scrutiny. Meanwhile, daily life in Niger continues under heightened security. Checkpoints remain active, patrols visible, and surveillance intensified. For ordinary citizens, uncertainty has become routine, accompanied by a growing sense that their country stands at a defining crossroads. As of now, the fate of the detained individuals remains unclear. Nigerian authorities say investigations are ongoing and that any legal proceedings will follow national law. Foreign governments continue to call for transparency, due process, and dialogue. What happens next could shape the future of the Sahel for years, if not decades. Whether this crisis leads to diplomatic de-escalation or deeper confrontation remains uncertain. What is undeniable is that the events near Niamey's airport have marked a turning point, redefining security priorities, alliances, and power dynamics across the region. The Sahara, once viewed as distant and silent, has again become a center of global consequence, not merely as a battleground of weapons, but as a stage for influence, information, and competing visions of sovereignty in Africa. The information presented in this report is based on official statements and publicly available reports from Nigerian authorities and international responses. It is provided strictly for educational and journalistic purposes and does not promote violence, hatred, or harm toward any individual, group, or nation.